Should you get the private instrument rating or the full instrument rating? Let's talk about it. Hey, how's it going? My name is Jane. I'm a flying instructor, charter pilot, and skydiving jumper in Australia. Welcome to this channel. In order to compare both ratings, these are the topics I'm going to talk about in this video. Timestamp is in the description. IFR stands for Instrument Flight Rules. They are rules, regulations, and procedures to allow operators and pilots to safely fly the aircraft under instrument meteorological conditions, IMC. Basically, if the weather condition don't meet the visual meteorological condition, VMC, that is considered to be IMC. In very simple terms, you can't be in cloud or in any weather conditions that will reduce the visibility significantly, like fog or mist. This is VMC requirements for different classes of airspace in Australia. Pause the video to have a look of the specific details if you're interested. So, if the weather condition don't meet these requirements for your flight, that is IMC. If you hold a private instrument rating, you can fly under IFR in private operation in Australia. The aircraft must be certified for single pilot operation and the maximum takeoff weight must not exceed 5,700 kg. If you hold an instrument rating, you can fly under IFR or night VFR. There's no limitation on the type of operations and aircraft weight. For the private instrument rating, you will need to pass the private instrument rating exam before your flight test. You have 2 hours to complete the exam and the pass mark is 70%. For the instrument rating, you will need to pass the instrument rating exam IREX before your flight test. You have 3.5 hours to complete the exam and the pass mark is 70%. I will link a video in the description talking about the differences in the syllabus between the two exams. By the way, the instrument rating exam can cover both, meaning that later on you want to switch to do the full instrument rating instead of the private one. The IREX meets the exam requirement for both ratings, but the private instrument rating exam doesn't. For the private instrument rating, you're required to do a flight review every 2 years. For the instrument rating, you're required to do a proficiency check every year. The differences between the flight review and the proficiency check is who can do the check. A flight review can be done with a grade 2 or grade 1 instructor, while a proficiency check can only be done with a flight examiner. The cost will be more expensive with a flight examiner. For the private instrument rating, you need to fly at least one flight under IFR every 6 months to remain IFR current. Also, for approach recency, you need to do the same kind of approach in flight or in an approved simulator within 6 months. For example, you want to do an RNAV approach today, you should have done one within 6 months previously. Same for NDB, VLR, ILS, etc. For instrument rating, you need to fly at least 3 instrument approaches within 90 days to remain IFR current. For approach recency is a bit different from the private instrument rating. We now have the approach categories of 2D, 3D, CDI, and azimuth guidance. You need to do the same category of the approach in flight or in an approved simulator within 90 days. In Australia, we have NDB, VLR, RNAV or RMP, DGA, ILS, and localizer. For 2D approach, that will be NDB, VOR, RNAV or RMP, DGA, and localizer. For 3D approach, that will be ILS and RNAV or RMP with vertical guidance. For CDI approach, that will be VOR, RNAV or RMP, DGA, ILS, and localizer. For azimuth guidance approach, that will be NDB. So, if you want to do a VOR today, that will be categorized as 2D and CDI approach. Technically, you should have done any of those approaches that fit in these two categories, like RNAV or RMP, or DGA or VOR itself. So they're quite different for recency requirements. It's a bit easier to remain current for the private instrument rating for legal reasons. However, being current is very subjective to individual. Just think about not flying for 5 months, how rusty you might be with flying. For the private instrument rating, the minimum instrument time is 20 hours, and at least 10 hours of those need to be in flight. For the instrument rating, you need to have the following experience: 50 hours of solo navigation time, 40 hours of instrument time, 10 hours of those need to be in flight. This part is the most different when comparing both ratings. For any flight, it includes the departure, the cruise, which is the navigation, the arrival, and the approach. There are rules and procedures for each stage of flight under IFR. These are the instrument endorsements for both ratings. The flight training for the instrument rating will cover everything, while the flight training for the private instrument rating will only cover individual parts of the flight. For example, you only want to be able to fly in cloud or under IFR for the cruise, but remain VFR for the climb and descent. You can just get the navigation endorsement with private instrument rating. So the private instrument ratings really chop up everything into small pieces. If you have the intention to be able to fly under IFR for all stages of flight eventually, doing the private instrument rating with individual endorsements might turn out to be more expensive compared to the full instrument rating. On the other hand, if you just want a few particular endorsements, private instrument rating is great for you. As for the pricing, I can't give you any estimate because the price changes a lot like in the fish market. What you can do is Google private instrument rating, your location, and price. Also, for private instrument rating, go for smaller flying schools because big flying school will try to sell you to do the full instrument rating instead. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, share it to your friends. Also, check out my online courses, link is down below. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.